thank you for coming today. My name is Pam McNerney. I'm an event host here at RJ Julia, and I am so pleased to introduce our moderator, Katie Kucharski, who is our Kids and YA coordinator, and she also runs the Authors to School. You're also the coordinator for Authors to School. And we have Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman, and they're here to talk about the epic conclusion of the blockbuster All of Us Villains duology, and it's Our Demise. So Amanda is a New York Times and Indie best-selling author of YA and children's fantasy novels, and Christine is a New York Times and Indie best-selling author of novels about magic, monsters, and growing up. So just a reminder to make sure your cell phones are off. We appreciate you wearing masks. Please keep those on throughout the event. And of course, Amanda and Christine will be here to sign books afterwards. You just purchase some up here and we'll be signing downstairs. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much.
It's the book birthday.
Yes, it is.
This is such a pretty book. I got this in the mail today. I was very excited. I was like, perfect timing. Thank you. I figured you would like to sit next to your excellent cover because this is very telling. Very telling.
I wish we could take credit for it.
I don't. I'm delighted that my artistic talents didn't have to be put together for the cover. It would have been like little stick figures.
Would definitely change the tone that I thought I was going into. But this is fantastic, and I'm super excited you're here on the publishing day. So, to our audience, really quick, who has read All of Us Villains? Excellent. Okay, just wanted to double check so we could, completely tell about that book before we. And since it's publishing day, I'm assuming you haven't read this new one, so we won't spoil that ending. Excellent. So, just as a refresher, and for all of the extra people here who were rides and or accompanying those that have read it, could you tell us, give us a little overview of All of Us Villains?
Yeah, so the quick and easy pitch is that it's kind of like the Hunger Games, but with magic. The concept is that it takes place in this town called Ilvernath, where for centuries and centuries, a secret death tournament has been taking place, in which 7 families each name a champion among them every generation to compete in a tournament to the death. And the winner of that tournament awards their family exclusive control over a very, very powerful type of magic until the next generation when the tournament begins anew. And it follows 4 of the 7 champions in the book. It hops between the different characters as they tell their story. And every single character, as you can imagine, being in a death tournament is not the best person. They're all villains in different ways.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would add to that?
The reason that this year's tournament is different is because a scandalous tell-all book has been published that has made Ilvernath's dirty laundry public knowledge to the entire world. So now the champions are famous, and they have to deal with that on top of, having a horrible, family legacy where they speak to each other.
Yeah, normal death tournament things.
Just teenage things.
Yeah. Excellent. And so, where does book 2 pick up? Is it the next day?
It picks up pretty much immediately after the end of book 1.
Yeah. The opening chapters are actually the same day as the final chapter in book 1.
Yeah.
So it's right away.
Yeah.
So
there was some stuff we needed to get to.
you just needed to cover that before we could move on.
Yeah. There's no pause.
Excellent. I love that. How did you create this world that has this much magic and this curse that goes back? How did that come about?
Well, we had a lot of fun with the world building system and the magic system because we both wanted it to feel extremely fleshed out and well developed, but we also wanted it to feel kind of throwbacky. We both love we like complicated terminology and spells and curses. We were like, why not make up a billion of them? Let's really make life fun for ourselves. But also we were both teenagers during a very specific age of young adult novels, and we kind of wanted to harken back to them. I feel like we were teenagers when the Hunger Games came out, when Divergent was really big, and Legend of Relu was really big. all of that stuff, and we kind of wanted the book to feel like that, but with like magic systems that came from like the middle grade books we had loved when we were even younger than that. Stuff where everybody kind of had like a magic like potion or ring or whatever. Yeah, and then when you mix that all together and you have two world building nerds, that's how you wind up with the All of Us Villains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like going into a book that we knew was going to be about a death tournament, we were so focused on just like totally embracing the trope for like all of its campiness, all of its fun. And so there were a lot of elements of the story that we kind of approached in the same way, and the magic system was definitely one of them. Like doing spells and curses, even though we put our own spin on it, it just felt like a fun, familiar thing to do. Like, oh, everyone has seen this before, but like let's do it in a weird way. Like the whole book, that was the idea of pretty much every aspect of the book.
Yeah, it delights me every time someone tags us in a photo of the book with a bunch of like rocks or a bunch of rings.
Yes.
I'm like, yes, this, exactly. As you can tell, one of us is a little bit of a magpie.
Yes, I do like wearing a lot of rings. I feel like people
Are they
every
cursed
time
rings?
about
Maybe.
and all the villains are like, yeah, I have the urge to do that.
I mean, I think you have a couple more fingers. You can add a few more.
I know.
It's
you
just
know,
in case.
That's what I tell myself too. Then my husband's like, really? I'm like, yes.
You need them.
And every
Just-
time I cook, and I have to like take every
Just
single
on
one.
every anniversary, you need another ring.
That's fantastic. Okay, so you both have loved world building. What is your favorite part of this world that you created?
I really like the modernity of it.
Yeah.
So in All of Its Villains, it does take place in a completely made up world. It's not set on Earth, but it's meant to look a little bit like Earth. Specifically Earth, like maybe circa the 90s. We didn't want to give them internet, but we thought it would be really, really fun to blend the modern elements of a modern world, like technology, with a completely fantastical world and with magic. Like for instance, the spells and curses that they make, those can be purchased. There are like brand name spells that you can get at department stores. There are like the generic brand ones that aren't as good. You can get bespoke ones at your local indie. Like just those kind of little elements, bringing it in was really, really fun.
Yeah, there's like a bit where there's like a support your local indie spell maker
Yeah.
t-shirt mentioned, I believe. You were like, I want this in real life.
Yeah, we were pretty excited about the idea of like support your local indie spell maker swag.
Yes. I also really loved what we did with like the idea that magic in this world is a resource, and so raw magic in its like purest form can just kind of be found, and you have to collect it and then like use it to craft an enchantment that goes into a stone that's usually worn as like a ring, as jewelry. So the idea that you could find raw magic like anywhere, like just kind of hanging out in like cool whimsical places. I loved that you might like open your window and it might like drift off the windowsill, or that you could like open a book and be
Yeah.
like in a page like a bookmark. I thought that was so cool. I love that we did it like that.
Yeah, it was really whimsical. And I feel like a lot of fantasy books, you know, magic is something that like you're born with, that makes you special, and I liked that in this magic system it's completely accessible to everyone.
Everyone can do
Everyone
magic.
can do it because it's just a resource. It isn't necessarily like an inherent power.
To me, it was like the way that like everybody can technically like everybody can learn how to play an instrument, but these kids have been like forced to learn Juilliard grade stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a fantastic analogy, and I love that. So, did you want to give us any hints about this one, or should
We
we?
can do some hints.
Yeah.
Okay,
A
do
lot
some-
of people here read it, so.
Well, not this
All right,
one.
we read the first one. So, okay, some hints about it. Where do we start?
There's so much more romance.
There's a lot of romance in all of Our Demise. There's already romance in all of Us Villains,
Yeah,
but
but-
it like really, it being like the finale and everything, like there's a lot more. We had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah. There's also a lot more of like the media due to some like stuff that happens at the end of the first book. The reporters who were bothering everybody before the tournament have more access than they did before, and some interesting consequences come from that
Oh yes.
that were really fun to write about.
Yes, the media is a big element, to the extent that there are epigraphs at the top of every single chapter in All of Us Villains and in All of Our Demise. And All of Us Villains, they were all little excerpts from that aforementioned tell-all book. And then in All of Our Demise, there are various excerpts from media of like morning talk shows and gossip tabloids, all the the different things that are happening concurrently in the rest of the
Yes.
world while the characters are in the midst of their death tournament.
And I like that we did it like that because I feel like it really reflects, like in the first book, the tell-all book reflects how insular it is. It's just this one source, this one story, and then we broaden it to all of the stories all of the other people are telling about these people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Reminder
to, like,
that everyone else is
reflect it.
going about their lives as well. The four of them are just really suffering.
Yeah, like somebody's just like half watching on TV, like, yeah, those kids, they don't know anything. And they're like, we're fighting for our lives in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I like those. Now I have thoughts. Okay. Let's see. So, how is the writing process different? Because you both are writers independently. So how is it different when you write this book together?
It's pretty different.
It's very different. Yeah.
I mean, we use Google Docs.
Yes.
Because it's
instead of Scrivener.
Yeah, we both
Unnecessary
love
evil.
Scrivener, which is a writing program that just allows for, I think, really intuitive and nice form of drafting a book.
Sort of like Microsoft Word meets like a binder.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
We're really making it sound fun. But Google Docs is just chaos. But it's the only thing we've been able to find where two people can work on it at the same time. Two people can always have access to it. We can both comment on it.
Yeah, we've come to accept it.
Yeah, it's a necessary evil.
Yes. So that's a big part. I think just the writing I mean, there's a lot of things that I feel like are so much better with a co-writer. Particularly like every time, like if it were my own book and I were doing chapters, say like a plot hole or something like that, I would have to figure that out like all by myself, which is a lot of work.
I mean, you would probably text me anyway and be like, phone.
That's actually completely true. Phone a friend. But it is
now
true.
you have a built-in friend who has to help you.
A built-in person who helps you solve all the problems, who knows the book just as well as
Yes,
you do.
and who's just as invested in every character, like making
Who
everything
edits
land as
everything
hard
you
as
write.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a lot of the pressure off.
And I think like when we were writing villains, I still had like a lot of just like embarrassment. I was like, don't look at my first draft words, they're so bad. And now I'm like, please look at them.
Yeah.
They're so bad.
Yeah, one of the things that Google Docs lets you do is like if you're both in the manuscript at the same time, like the other person's cursor.
Oh yeah, so you can
Oh my
just see
gosh.
when one person's lurking over the other person.
Or like the amount of times that I know you're not at your laptop. I know you're like having dinner or something, yet your
Yeah.
cursor is stalking
You
me.
literally will text me and be like, what are
Get
you
out.
doing? And I'm like, I'm not there. I'm physically not there.
Yeah, your computer just likes to stalk you.
It's just and also, of course, we have to be pretty organized about what we're doing. So we do have like a pretty intensive like outline, and we have to talk to each other all the time about like if we're changing things, what we're changing, what we're doing.
Yeah, co-writing forces plotting and outlining ahead of time. Otherwise, like
There's just no way.
can't wait for you to read my chapter. Guess who I killed?
Right? There is still a little bit of like, look what I did.
There's always a little.
There's like, I think different things we do when we're left unattended, and they're both very
The other part that I really like is it can be very validating. There are certain stages of edits that happen like late into the book writing process, like for instance copy edits and past pages, where the notes on it are itty bitty. They're on like punctuation and word choice and things like that. And having you there, because like sometimes I'll read a comment, I'll be like, I don't agree with that, but like it's me, and like if somebody points up, like if a professional tells me that like that line, like oh they don't like that word there, like I'm just gonna change it because I'm not gonna
But
assume
if it's
that
us,
I'm right.
then there's a third opinion. So it's like, well, if both of us think it's
Yes.
right.
So then there's like the devil on my shoulder.
That's me.
Well, you wrote better. But yes.
Although sometimes it's also the devil on your shoulder being like, no, I agree with the copy editor.
Yeah, I know. Or, yeah. Betrayal.
Now we're in a death tournament.
Yeah. So yes, it's very fun.
Excellent. So do you take turns writing chapters? Do you write them kind of together?
Can you imagine writing it together?
We have just like RPGing the whole book.
We have had to do a little bit of that sometimes, but
Every now and
very,
then.
very rarely. No, we each took two of the characters, and that's I think the easiest way for us. I don't think we could do a single POV book. I think it gives us some degree of like, that way like each of us is in charge of something slightly different, even though they're part of the same story. It feels like very much like we're like the subject matter experts on those characters. which is nice. It means you don't have to hold everything all at the same time.
Yeah.
Although we are all, obviously every character appears in like various chapters, so we've written all of them.
Oh yeah, and we
Yeah.
edit each other's stuff so thoroughly that
Yeah.
like even if
At the
like
end of the
whoever
day.
wrote what, they're all in our characters.
But like one of us does have like veto power, I would say. Like
Yes,
you can't
absolutely.
kill somebody's character without asking them first. Although that's never been much of a concern. Whenever a character has to die, the person who controls that character has more than willingly offered them up.
Yeah.
I think it's time for this person to die.
Oh no, it's more like this will emotionally injure people.
Excellent.
Us first though, don't worry.
Even the side characters are like kind of divvied between us based off of like for instance, like the person who wrote like Bryony, like Inez, her sister, like that belongs to the person who wrote Bryony, and like
You can
Hendry, who wrote
subdivide it.
Alistair. Like the characters who appear most in those chapters, like still sort of also rotate around.
They get kind of grandfathered in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're a specific POV characters like sidecast becomes and sometimes if that side character becomes like more and more important, it becomes more and more of like a
Yes.
yeah.
And they get elevated from like a throwaway character to like, oh no, they're mine now.
Yeah. I do feel like what's nice though about like both of us having like eyes on character is that you wind up having to develop them, I think, a lot more before anyone else reads the book, because they have to make sense not just to me but to you. Like it has to be like, is this person doing reasonable things? Like, are you explaining yourself well enough? You know?
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's really nice. It feels like kind of like throwing a ball back and forth, like shaping it a little bit each time until it turns into a scroll.
Very quickly. Goes with the theme for the night. I like it. Okay. So this is a question for both of you. If you were part of one of the 7 families, which would it be? Why? And would you have been chosen to participate in the tournament? Oh yes.
Unfortunately, I know that I would have been.
You
I
absolutely
definitely
would have been.
My family
You have
pick 100%.
you have like the energy. You would have been like, yes, I'll do that.
Yeah. I'm the oldest of 7 siblings, and
Wow.
well, some of them are like tiny. They were like too tiny.
They would not have been
I will
eligible.
spare my 6-year-old sister the
Like-
very noble of me. But yes, I definitely feel like it would have been me.
I think it probably would have been Andrea, so I'm good. I have a younger sister who is very much like I'm like the weird oldest, and she's the one who's like unpractical and will do stuff. I think that would have been an easy selection process. I would not have had to do anything. And Andrea probably would have won. But which family? I've always been partial to, I like that the Paynes like are, you get a little bit more of it in the sequel, but I like that they also have like spellmaker backgrounds.
And
And
I can see that with your family.
yeah, like the kind of creativity, but like the more scientific-y minds. I feel like that actually kind of suits what my family is kind of doing
Yeah.
anyway.
Oh, I'm thinking. It's tough because my parents divorced when I was very little, so my family is like there are 2 halves of my family in my head. The McCaslins stand out to me a lot.
Oh yeah, because your family is so obsessed with death.
Maybe not that, but like the vibes. I don't know, something about that's right. That's not very flattering to my family.
This event is being recorded.
I didn't say it had to be based off the actual
None of the families are that good, so I don't really know.
People
Like,
are really literal with this story. Honestly, if Andrea was
what would
watching
you all
this,
have
then we
said
should be
about
like,
just like the lows? Done.
if my sister watches this, she'd be like, yeah, I would have been so and I would have won it. You're welcome.
Yeah, I'll go with the McCaslins. I feel like that works overall. Maybe for either.
I plead the 5th.
Christine, it's about 6:30. So why don't we'll see if there's any questions from the audience, and if not, we can bump right back to your questions. So
Yeah.
would
Any
anybody like to
questions?
ask questions or make an observation or?
You asked my 2 already.
Jonathan else in there?
Are you going to tell us which characters you wrote? Or that's a secret?
No,
It's a
we
secret.
don't tell probably the single question we get asked the most.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I like to think it makes us mysterious.
I think it's more like then if you knew, then you would. I think it would change. It wouldn't. Then you wouldn't look at it like a co-written book. You'd
Yeah.
look at it like that person controlled
Yeah.
that part of it, and
Yeah.
so it's like we don't want it to be like 50% one person and 50% the other person. It is 100% its own thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So how did you guys come together?
That's a great question.
So back in 2016, we had both just graduated from college that year, and
Did you go to college together?
No, we didn't.
Oh, okay.
We were there's a writing competition that I guess it doesn't exist anymore, but it's called Pitch Wars, and it's when aspiring writers submit their completed books to mentors who are writers who are further along in their journey, like published authors or agented authors or things like that. And yeah, Christine sent me her book and I liked it.
That is. Well, I guess I did send it to you actually.
Yeah, directly.
Yeah.
You picked me.
I did pick you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can only pick 4. And I remember reading your like bio breakdown. I was like, I feel like this person sounds a lot like me.
Yeah, pretty quickly. I feel like after we started
And then
working
you-
together, I
you
was
said
like,
we just-
oh, like she's also the same age as me, and we're both like older siblings.
Well, I
and-
remember you like we had this like video call before like you officially made your decision, and we wound up talking for 3 hours. And I was like, if she doesn't pick me after that, I'm gonna feel like I went on a very misleading
yeah, so we worked together on your manuscript for several months. That manuscript's now your debut novel.
Yeah, that manuscript became my debut novel. So I guess you made a good choice. And then
Sometimes I
we just started we became critique partners, which means like you just swap work with each other and you like comment on it and you just kind of help each other out like feedback wise. It's always nice to have another pair of eyes on a project. And then we kind of we started thinking about how we had always worked so well together and maybe we should try to co-write something. And then one day we were being really responsible adults and chatting and not paying attention at our day jobs, and we were talking about tropes we liked, and we started talking about death tournaments, and literally by the end of the day there was a Google Doc.
Yep, that was fall of 2017.
Yeah.
So about a year.
Yeah.
A little over a year after we met. Yeah, all of us villains we worked on for a really long time because it wasn't just that the book was hard. Like we did do a lot of revisions on
But we
it.
also had to learn how to co-write.
We had to learn how to co-write, and we had all of our solo stuff happening at the same time.
So we were always writing it around something else. So if we both have other deadlines, we kind of write it in like them in between times.
And neither of us were writing full time at that point either. So
Yeah, so we also
it was a
had
long
day
journey.
jobs to contend with that, we actually did have to do. We couldn't
Sometimes.
teach that all day.
Sometimes.
And so it was like a lot. It felt like a lot of the time it was like the 3rd or 4th thing on the priority list, but we always got around to it. And then suddenly it became like the first thing we had to do.
Yeah.
That was
I remember sharing it with
wild.
our agents for the first time and us being like,
Anyway.
this is the book. And it's Hunger Games with Magic. Don't judge us.
I kind of felt like a cat carrying a dead bird to it. Or is it like, do you want? And our agents were like,
Especially when you like couple it with like being a co-written book.
yeah, and our separate agents were like, so now we have to work together.
Yeah.
But our agents actually now really like each other and have become friends. And,
Yeah.
we have all wound up working really well together. We got very
Yeah,
lucky.
all of our device is dedicated to our agents.
Yeah,
Actually.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, they're awesome.
Yeah.
Were you guys all in the same region? Or like were you different
No.
places?
No, our agents are in wildly different places from us, and we were not in the same city when we wrote villains. We do live in the same place now, but that is unrelated to us being writers, because we're writers, we can live wherever. Both of our partners work there.
Yeah, we lived close because you were in New York and I was in Philadelphia.
Yeah, but like,
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
Google Docs.
But Google
Yeah.
Docs, yeah, we weren't together. And then our agents are, your agent's based in California.
Yeah.
And I'm with a different agent now than when we first were writing all of these villains, but my agent now is based in Johannesburg. So, yeah.
We're a global team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting all of us together on a call between like the
between all the times.
the South African
Yeah.
time zone.
I think we really only managed it like once or twice. It's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the 4 of us almost never.
Oh, that's amazing. Very exciting. Yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Yes, we have a few more minutes if you want to keep going with
Yeah.
yours.
Okay.
Well, you can jump in if anything.
Well, is
Yes.
this gonna be your last together? Or are you gonna do
no,
more?
We are doing
Yeah.
it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have another duology that starts in winter 2024. The first book is called A Fate So Cold, and the same way that like All of Us Villains tackles the death tournament trope, this book tackles the chosen ones trope. And it is so good. Oh wait, we were literally working on it in the car on the way here. I'm
It's
obsessed with it.
specifically chosen ones who are star-crossed chosen ones who fall in love, but their destiny is to kill the other.
They don't figure that part out for a while, which is unfortunate for them, having
Yes.
inconveniently already fallen in love by that point.
It's got a lot in common. Like, obviously we wrote it, so it sticks kind of to a similar brand, All of Us Villains, but the other two big differences are it's a little older than All of Us Villains. Like, we would describe it as being a true crossover as opposed to like an upper YA.
Yeah, and it's way more of a romance
Yes.
also.
A
Like,
true
it's a truly
fantasy
fantasy romance. I would almost say like romance before fantasy, honestly, sometimes.
Yeah, it seems pretty split.
Yeah, which has been really fun to write. Neither of us have ever written something where a romance is like the main plot before.
It's hard.
It is really hard.
It's really hard.
We have a lot of friends who like write very romance-heavy books, and I've just been texting them like, "How did you do? How did you do it?
Yes.
Help!"
Oh my gosh.
But we do have like murder in there, you know.
Oh yeah.
So it's okay.
A lot of it.
It's okay. We know what to do. We can go back to our comfort zone.
We got that part. Thank you for helping us do this part.
Yeah, so we're really, really excited about it, and we're going to send it to our editor tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You heard it
Wow.
here first. We are going to finish it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now it's on tape. And that one is also multiple POV, but it's two POVs, and it's obviously the two main characters who are, you know, rival star-crossed chosen ones. That one I think will be maybe a little less secretive about who wrote who.
Yeah, I don't know. We haven't firmed
But
it.
we haven't decided. For
Yeah.
now, you'll
So now
never
it's
know.
mystery.
You'll never know unless you're my fiance who read the pitch and went, "You wrote that one." But I think that's just you know, one of those things. You have to really know what I'm
Yeah.
about.
That's it though, because I feel like our partners for All of Us Villains,
They couldn't tell.
they didn't know who wrote what.
Our agents
Really?
couldn't
Wow.
tell who
That's
wrote
pretty
what.
good.
That was wild.
I
to
think
me.
it's funny because I feel like
I
deep
feel
down,
like it's
I'm like,
really
it's
obvious.
obvious.
I feel like it's so obvious. What was funny is my mom got it wrong, but my dad got it right. And I was like, you two can fight about that later. And my dad was like, it's because of this one specific line. And that's something you used to say all the time when you were a kid. And I was like, actually, Dad, it's something you used to say to me all the time when I was a kid. I'll tell you what it is later.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Any other questions? No? Okay, I do have a couple more, since we still have a little bit of time.
Yes.
Excellent. So maybe just one, because you did talk about texting your friends. What author friends do you have, and how do they help you through this? I'm very interested now.
Wait, have you just asked us to brag about?
Yes,
We'll
sir.
super do that. Just to
I
be
mean,
clear.
if they want to share video too. Look at my friends. They're bragging about me.
Well, first off, we're part of a larger 15 group of authors who, for the most part, write YA, but they also have some adults and middle grade kind of hanging about there too. It's a pretty large group.
Yeah, we're doing events with 3 of them this week.
I know, it's really exciting. And we work together. You introduced me to them. And we all have a Slack.
Yeah,
that we
it's very
chat on.
professional, and there's no Shrek memes in there. But we are, I feel like so weird being like, these are my friends.
I know.
Okay, can you just tell me
My
one piece of
MySpace
advice
page.
they gave to help you move along?
I feel like Kat is always like my mom. Kat is always like, it's okay.
Yes,
it's
Kat
okay.
Cho. She's all of our moms. I
Yeah.
think, in that group.
Kat is the one who is like, sometimes you just have to let go. It's
Mhm.
okay. You can turn the draft in like
Yes.
this. You can get it next time.
Axie, I feel like is the person I call whenever Axie and Tara, Axio and Tara Sim. Whenever I have like a big decision to make, because I feel like, well, maybe I shouldn't always call them because every single time they tell me the same thing, which is like, do it. And here I am.
And then I panic text Alice and Saft about romance all the time.
Yes.
I love Al. She is very, very, very good at writing romance, and also was I mentored her in a different writing contest like a long time ago now. 2018 feels like a really long time ago
Yeah,
to me.
it's a complicated one.
Yes. But she is my go-to for like, did I do the romance right? Please help. She read the proposal for A Fate So Cold.
Yes.
And we're definitely gonna
She's
be
also getting the book tomorrow.
Yeah.
Actually.
I haven't actually told her that yet.
Oh, really?
I told her I was gonna give it to her, and then I don't know, it's been
Yeah,
a little
she's
busy.
gonna be the first like non person who's paid to work with us.
Just has
connected to it.
the pleasure and the misfortune of being our friend. Yeah, I feel like you really, it's writing's a really solitary business. It's really special and wonderful to have a writing community who we love so much.
Yeah, and honestly, one of the joys of having author friends is like going into a bookstore and being like,
We always
like,
Yes. And we just like automatically do it. We're like always sending each other pictures when we find our friends.
yeah,
and
literally
stuff
going
like
downstairs to the sci-fi, the little fantasy sci-fi section. We'd be like, oh, Ruby's book is here. Tarna's book is here. Like,
Yeah.
just looking at the whole
Yeah.
time.
It's actually just, it's cool because I feel like when I was a kid going into a bookstore, it felt like going and like hanging out with my friends. Now I can literally go into
Oh
a
my gosh.
bookstore and be like,
Oh,
those
yeah.
are my friends.
Like 16-year-old me, like to have like read people's manuscripts ahead of time and like all of it.
The first time I was ever in a book's acknowledgements, I
It
was
does feel special.
so emotional.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I have a question. I think I read that you're going to the Washington DC convention in May.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, do you think you'll have more news on your guys' upcoming book?
I think we'll have
Oh
arcs.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I think we'll have.
We'll have
maybe arcs.
something.
I'm
I
trying
mean-
to convince these ones to go.
Yes, I think we'll have arcs of that book by then,
Yeah.
or if not by then, like by June.
And hopefully a cover.
Oh, definitely a cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. But
It's
doesn't
kind
seem
of-
that long from
I
now. The cover. Oh man, that's true.
We've been thinking about what we want it to look like. I mean, we love these covers so much, and we're working with the same team, so we'll see. We trust them.
Yeah.
It'll be beautiful.
Yeah, I'm curious if it'll stick with the same illustrator and the same vibe, or if they'll depart and do something different.
Either way, we're kind of down for whatever. In publishing, you don't have. People seem to think we have more control over things like covers than we actually do.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing where it really, really varies from like author to author, from like publishing house to
Yeah.
publishing house. Some people really do just get emailed their cover and they're like, "This is your cover," and some people get looped in right at the beginning of the design process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our Demise is my 8th book, and I've had, I think, every single type at this point.
Yeah.
Of like,
This is-
here it is, or like let's spend hours having a conversation about what, like my middle grade covers are so illustrated that like they actually kind of feed my input.
I actually think this is my 5th book. I think actually for every single book I've gotten an above average amount of input on the cover, which is very, very lucky. Like for the Drawing Summer, my last solo release, they literally let me pick the illustrator before there was even a concept, which was
That's
amazing.
really nice.
I sent them like 5 and I was like, but this one's my favorite, and that's the one they picked.
Yes.
And I love that cover, so it works out. Yeah.
Excellent.
Great.
Now we have so many more authors to go and look for their books now. Probably they go, "Oh, let's sell it." All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, and thank you to you guys because you're here. So we're gonna move to the signing. It will be downstairs, so you can purchase your book. They're up at the top of the stairs, and then go on downstairs to the front desk to get them signed.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you so much for